Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar event. This is Joshua. I'm going to be your presenter today. Welcome to everyone. It is promptly 1 p.m. Eastern Time here. We're going to get started on our topic here momentarily. We're here to talk about setting up direct deposit in version 24, the new payroll. Well, not new. It's payroll that's been moved into the home screen for Church Windows. So we're talking about the payroll right here between administration and accounting, of course. All right, let's go into here in Church Windows. First of all, the other thing is you want to make sure you're on version 24.22.1. The patched version is important. You've got to get that installed. That is really the first thing and the best thing I can recommend for you to make sure that you're running the software as problem-free as possible. We're working on 24.22.2 patch. I don't know when that's going to be released, but we're going to get it out as quickly as humanly possible, probably sometime here in February, I think. Finally, before we kind of get started on our topic, I'm so sorry, folks. I'm in the very, very final stages of getting over a cold here. So if I kind of sound a little heady here, please forgive me. I will try to not, cough or sneeze in your ear or what have you, but I'm kind of still blowing stuff out. So that's why I kind of sound in my head. Let's go into payroll here. One of the most important things that I strongly recommend about payroll and direct deposit setup is, folks, the help files are up to date for at least this version. So if we go into help and it says allow blocked content, I go right up here to the search. If I type in direct deposit and click enter or hit the hourglass, notice it says direct deposit EFT. It takes us, right when we click on that, right to the help page on direct deposit and EFT in Church Windows Payroll, with live links to the right under direct deposit, EFT setup, pre-notify, authorization form, etc. So all of those are part of the EFT setup and calculation process. Now, we're not going to be talking about calculating payroll using EFT today, just the setup process. But I want you to know that you do have printed material in the help files already on the direct deposit setup, okay? So use that. It's very important, all right? So under here, first of all, you want to make sure that as part of the direct deposit setup is, if you're going to be using this function in the church, well, I've kind of got these ordered incorrectly. I apologize. Let's back up a step. First of all, Church Windows communicates nothing with your bank directly, okay? There's nothing that Church Windows sends to the bank automatically. There's nothing that comes back from your bank into Church Windows. All that Church Windows is and Payroll is what it does is it produces what's called an NACHA compliant file that is basically a federal banking standard, and the payroll can then be uploaded, the file can then be uploaded to the bank. That's how that works, okay, is nothing is sent directly from payroll to your bank or vice versa, okay? This is an entirely user-driven function, okay? So that's the first and foremost important thing. But we have hundreds of customers that do this. My pay is deposited to my checking account by my HR administrator here using the same file functionality that we have in Church Windows Payroll. Okay, so just be aware that that's the first thing, is there's nothing that communicates directly with the bank. All right. The second thing you want to keep in mind is, please contact your bank. All right. You want to let them know we already own NACHA compliant software. It produces a file that they will receive and upload, whether you walk it into the bank on a thumb drive, whether you email it to them. Most times it's uploaded through a secure link on the bank's website. However that occurs. Do they offer the service at all? Some folks or churches use banks that don't have this as an option, and they have to work around and find something else. But many will. And you want to let them know, we already own NACHA compliant file. How do we transmit the file to you? Are there fees associated with it? How much lead time in advance of the actual pay date do you need the file before our employees, before the pay date for our employees. Some banks it's 2 days, some it's 3, some it's 4. Each one of them will tell you, all right, how do we transmit the file to you? Let them know you also have what's called an EFT pre-notify file option. And I'm going to come back to that in more detail here in just a few minutes, okay? So that's the reason why you want to get in contact with the bank directly, is because they've got some information you need. You're working together to try to get your folks to be paid electronically, and you want to know what their role in that is. All right. So, contact them. Those are the questions. Are there fees? What's the lead time? How do I transmit the file to you, or we transmit the file to you? Okay. Those are really important questions that only the bank can answer, and they need to be able to get that sorted out for you. Okay. After that, then you would go right here under direct deposit. Now we're going to be talking about getting the software set up in Payroll so it supports that creation of that file then to send to your bank and pay your folks electronically. Okay, so it's all done here in the upper left under this option called direct deposit /EFT. What I was going to talk about before was right here below to the right next to void, EFT void, is the print EF authorization form. And what this form is it's basically a form you want to basically distribute to your employees and have them complete that authorizes the church to pay them their net pay electronically. It's a protection for the church too. It includes, their account and routing information. It's a signature that says I'm authorizing them to pay me, electronically each paycheck. Okay. And so it's important that you get this. And just in case there's ever an issue, you've got a record of it that says the employee authorized this. Okay. And it does include the information you'll need to enter for them in the software as well. Okay. So then we're going to go up to direct deposit EFT, and right up here in the very upper left-hand corner, you've got the option EFT setup. So when you click on that, we notice right here that we've got the tab up here in the upper left, it says EFT ACH info. A little unclear as to why I can't grab the top of that screen, but that's okay. We don't need it. We see everything. But under the EFT ACH info, we've got our church's bank information. It's the organization information as it's taken from the system profile screen in church windows. You can change or edit that or add it here if you wish by clicking the minus, the plus, or the pencil. I also recommend that you use, like, say, the default tax ID as the company identification number unless the bank tells you otherwise. But here below that is where you would enter the church's routing and account number information, bank name, organization name, and it says required fields, and including entry description. If the bank requires that you use a balanced debit and credit file for EFT, they'll let you know that. But otherwise, we would recommend not checking the use balanced debit credit in EFT file unless they come back to you after the pre-notify option and indicate that it needs to be. Okay. If there are any overrides that the bank instructs you that you need to have to make that file work in their system, you'll come to the tab here called EFT/ACH overrides, and you would check the appropriate box and enter the information per the bank's instruction. All right. Again, this is really where the church's bank information is now entered. All right. Once it's entered in here, we simply click OK. And then we go here in the center to employees/contractors. Once we come in here, now here, this is a question that oftentimes comes up during the webinar on the direct deposit. We've had this request for a number of years, but the only folks that are eligible for direct deposit or can have their pay electronically deposited, folks, are employees. Contractors, there is no direct deposit option. You may certainly go online and do like a bill pay function if you wish with your bank to pay your contractors electronically, but contractors are not considered employees and therefore not eligible for direct deposit, at least according to, it's my understanding, is government regulations or legalities, I guess. So there are advantages to being an employee versus a contractor, and one of them is the option for direct deposit. Okay, so if we uncheck contractors, notice here we've got our tab for our first employee, John Doe, direct deposit. We click on that. You have to check the box, use direct deposit here in the upper left. If you come into this window, it's going to be gray. So if I uncheck that, we notice it's now gray. This is what it's going to look like when you come in here and are setting somebody up for the first time. Okay? So when you want to set them up for direct deposit, check that box. And here is where you can enter the account and routing number information from the EFT authorization form that you received completed from that employee. You have to choose the type of account it is, and I would again recommend leaving the EFT detail record as not required by your bank unless the bank tells you that that's the case. Okay? So, one of the nice things about the new payroll versus the old payroll is we now have the ability to split or divide a net pay amount for an employee over two different bank accounts. Okay, so I'm going to go to my next per employee here, my senior pastor, Larry, and I'm going to go to his direct deposit tab, and he's got use direct deposit set up. And notice here, though, we have both information on account 1 and account 2. Folks, as I said, I'm trying not to cough in your ear. I'll notice when we click on account 2, you do have to specify which account type they are. Is it a checking account? Is it a savings account? Again, you have to enter both the routing information and account number information for both of the accounts and identify the type of an account it is, checking or savings. On account 2 specifically, down the right side here, you see that section called account 2 allocation. It will default to none. You must choose one of the other radio buttons, amount to deposit or percent of net to deposit. So if, say, Larry said, okay, I want to have, this is a savings account for me, and I want to have 500 of that deposit of my net pay amount deposited to my savings each month or each paycheck, I would choose net amount, and you've got to click save in the upper right in order to save those selections. It's barking at me about my routing information. Do I have something in there? Can I do that? Oh, it's not. Oh, I've got something wrong in here. Give me a second, folks. Sorry. I'm just having to try to make up a routing number here. Sorry. What am I doing here? Let's just try this one. So I've just got to get through this. Excuse me. Let's see if I can save that. Yeah, it does. Okay. So if they're at the same bank, that routing number might be the same. So that's not a bad thing in its entirety. If they were, of course, the routing numbers would be different. So we're just going to pretend that Larry's got two different accounts with the same bank, one checking and one savings. So $500 he's now allocated for his savings account. Or if he wanted to say a percentage of the net, we would just simply change it down to percent of net and put in whatever amount he wanted on that. Okay? So it's whatever you choose or whatever the employee specifies. All right. Some folks may opt for a percent. Some may opt for an amount. So let's just put in an arbitrary amount, $250. And again, you've got to click save in the upper right. All right. So we're really kind of moving along pretty quickly through this information. But this final step, I think, is really probably the most important part of the direct deposit setup in Church Windows Payroll. All right. I cannot stress this enough. We have what's called a pre-notify file option. So if we go close out of the employees contractors, go up to direct deposit, notice right up here, third button in the upper left to the right says pre-notify. A pre-notify file, folks, is essentially the exact same file that you would upload to the bank as though you were paying employees, but no money is changing hands. All right. All the net pay amounts are zero, but all the account information, churches and employees is all there. And frankly, you've got to let your bank know that you've got an EFT pre-notify file option that the bank will want to, you'll want to send them. So when we click on that, it says, okay, what's our pre-notification transaction date? Typically, this would be entered with the same kind of lead date that the bank would require. So if they wanted to test run on the 9th, maybe we would say we're going to set this up on 2/9. All right. and then we would go to next, and here's our 3 direct deposit employees. We go to next, and it says individuals, we're good. Uncheck any. I would do this every time I have a new employee that is opting for direct deposit too, by the way. And then we simply click next. And here, if we now click browse, say, and I browse to the desktop and click OK, and I simply click save file. And it now says EFT file. This is exactly the same type of file that will be created when we cover paying folks electronically via direct deposit next month here. So that file is now there ready for me to upload to my bank and for them to import it and to test it. So now I can either just click next and then finish. And now when I minimize Church Windows back to my desktop, we notice right here, I've got a file that says EFT230209_1.dat. That is the file now that I would upload to my bank and let them know, here is my pre-notify file. Nobody's getting any money here. All of these net pay amounts are zero, and the bank can then import it, and then they'll get back to you in whatever time frame, day, 2 days, 3 days, the 9th or later, and they'll say, thumbs up, yes, everything's good, everything in the file is great, or no, we've got something that's wrong. All right, and so I would recommend, any of my other technicians and folks here would recommend, you continue to make the adjustments to the necessary the setup in payroll, and continue to send the pre-notify files to the bank until the bank comes back with you and finally with a clean slate on that and says, yes, everything, we sent the files out to the employees' bank accounts. They all came back to us, saying that they had a positive response to that. We're set and we're ready to go. All right. You can create as many pre-notify files as you wish. Okay. So that's the thing. Use that. I've had folks who've called me that they didn't do the pre-notify file. They thought they set it up. They sent the file. They created it. The bank rejected the file. So then all of a sudden they're scrambling now to, print checks for their employees and, apologizing, saying, I'm sorry, they didn't do the pre-notify file. That would have made sure everything was set up and there was no delay in getting anybody any paychecks, okay? So please, please, please use the pre-notify file option. It simply ensures that everything with everyone's bank, church and employees bank, is set up and functioning and behaving as it should. After that bank comes back with a clean EFT pre-notify response to the EFT pre-notify file, folks, you are then ready to begin paying your folks electronically, okay? So I will again be covering the paying folks electronically, saving the file and what have you for direct deposit, voiding pays and what have you next month in March. So, tune in for a webinar next month on paying folks electronically. But that is where I am going to end my topic for the day.